Heather Hewitt reporting. Well, Bill Shorten is the Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations. He's a staunch Julia Gillard supporter and he joined us now. Welcome.
Good evening, Chris.
What was all that about?
Well, there was debate about leadership speculation. The members of the government met and they gave an overwhelming mandate to Julia Gillard to be our Prime Minister and to lead us to the next election in 2013.
Isn't that one of the most extraordinary pieces of self-harm we've ever seen in Australian politics, and it achieved nothing?
Leadership challenges have happened in the past on both sides of politics. It wasn't so long ago that Tony Abbott narrowly beat Malcolm Turnbull by one vote.
They weren't in government.
Yeah, that's true. But by the same token, there's been leadership challenges in the past within governments and within oppositions. What happened is that there was some weeks of speculation about leadership. Our Prime Minister said, all right, well, let's get the renewed mandate from the people who I lead, the team. And overwhelmingly, the team said, on balance, we're going with Julia Gillard.
You remove leaders routinely, both in opposition and in government. In fact, you have to go back to Kim Beazley in 1998 to 2001 to find a leader that you haven't dispensed with in one term.
Yeah, but I think you're trying to say that somehow there's not a debate periodically within organisations about direction. We've had that debate.
Yours seems to be routine, not periodic.
Oh, well, I mean, John Major replaced Margaret Thatcher. There's been debates in Conservative sides. Since Labor's been elected, we've had Brendan Nelson lead the opposition. We've had Malcolm Turnbull. We had Kevin Andrews put his hand up. We've had Joe Hockey try. We've had Malcolm Turnbull try again against Tony Abbott. What is important for Australians is that we have a government who's getting on with business. We have had a debate in the Labor Party about leadership. Overwhelmingly, the government MPs have said we're going to stick with Julia Gillard. Well,
you weren't getting on with business for the last week, and in fact you've been obsessed with this for quite some time now. And interestingly, of course, every time that was raised, the government denied it. So what are we to make of the words that politicians say now? What's happened to truth in politics?
Oh, hang on a second. I think you're now taking a long bow here. I believe in politics. Members of Parliament work very hard and are very idealistic. Just have a look at what the Labor government under Julia Gillard's doing. We're putting a price on carbon pollution. We want to introduce a national disability insurance scheme. We want to increase compulsory retirement savings so that people don't retire poor. We are getting on with business.
And on Tuesday of last week, Kevin Rudd said he wasn't challenging. By Wednesday, he said he was. On Tuesday, Julia Gillard said that there was no challenge, and by Wednesday and Thursday, there was. And had been going on for some time, is what we were told.
Yeah, I think we all understand that the last couple of weeks has been quite bruising and difficult. On the other hand, what we've also seen is the Labor Party debate and have a fair income debate about direction. And what we've done is we've overwhelmingly chosen someone. And hats off to Mr Rudd and indeed some of the people who supported him. They've said we want to debate the direction, we want to have a chance to see if another person should lead the government. And in fact, overwhelmingly, the result was in favour of the Prime Minister.
Is this the end of it?
I believe it is. I believe in the best in people. I think Mr Rudd's concession speech today in caucus was gracious, just as I thought that the Prime Minister's speech was big-spirited.
And what did he mean when he said that he wouldn't support a third challenger against the Prime Minister? Isn't that a little bit cute?
No, not at all. I actually think what he was saying, because I think Australians wanted to hear it, is the Labor Party's had an argument, as organisations do periodically, and now what's happened is he has said, I'm putting my shoulder to the wheel, along with all the members of the government. The message out of today, and it was interesting in question time, the Liberals were quite flat by comparison, is that the Labor Party's uniting behind Julia Gillard. That's what's happened today. We've had the debate. We haven't tried to cover anything up. It's happened, and now we're moving on to a debate about the future.
What we saw in 2010, and the Prime Minister has said this, and others have said it, was that you failed to explain what actually went on in 2010. You spent the last week doing a little bit of that. Why isn't the Prime Minister here tonight explaining what just happened? Because surely she hasn't answered all the questions, even though tomorrow I'm sure she'll say, I answered those questions yesterday.
Chris, whether or not you're frustrated the Prime Minister's come on your show, I'm not going to second-guess that. You've asked me to come on. I'm explaining clearly. The Labor Party's had an argument, and what we're doing is that we're now getting on with the future. It is not unusual in politics for people to have a debate about direction.
It's rarely this brutal.
Well,
we rarely hear people make the kinds of statements they've made in the last week. Kevin Rudd was accused of being dysfunctional and chaotic, paranoid. People are almost questioning his mental health. We don't see that usually in these kinds of things.
Yeah, it was ugly, and I don't think anyone who says otherwise is having a lend of people. But what we have also done is we've had a ballot, overwhelming support. A proven leader's been re-endorsed with a mandate. The challenger has been very gracious, and he has certainly made clear his support for the Prime Minister, as has everyone who supported him. Remember, Tony Abbott beat Malcolm Turnbull by one vote. We've seen the largest margin in 30 years in a leadership challenge going to the Prime Minister, the largest margin in 30 years. Tony Abbott runs his party by one vote.
Not anymore. because he's got the polls behind him and the party behind him. And haven't we seen from today that you've got 1/3 of caucus who now believes that this Prime Minister can't win the next election and has voted no confidence in her?
No, that's again, I think, a misrepresentation of what's happened today. What we've seen is that there has been a debate. The people who supported the challenger have certainly said they're getting behind the Prime Minister, as are those who are getting behind the Prime Minister and voted for her. I mean, remember, Mr Abbott won his leadership by 1 vote, and yet no one is questioning now that he's apparently running that party. What is important here is the Labor Party's had a fight about its leadership. Now we're going to have a fight about the future. We are interested in putting a price on carbon pollution. We want to increase the tax-3 threshold for people to $18,000. We want to see more family payments.
Just briefly, we have to end. What Mark Abbott resigned today, did you see that coming? To accept what he says at face value, that it's to unify the party? What does that mean?
No, I didn't see it coming. I think he was a very good minister, especially in the area of Indigenous employment. A big part of what he was talking about today was about spending more time with his family. Politics is a rough game. I wish him well in the future. Again, though, I think that you can take from his decision the whole Labor Party wants to give Julia Gillard the best possible momentum under her wings. That's why we're going to get on with what's important for Australia.
Bill Shorten, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.